Martha's secret ingredient. It bothered Ben every time he went through the kitchen. It was that little metal container on the shelf above Martha's cook stove. He probably would not have noticed it so much or been bothered by it if Martha had not repeatedly told him never to touch it. The reason, she said, was that it contained a secret herb from her mother. And since she had no way of ever refilling the container, she was concerned that if Ben or anyone else ever picked it up and looked inside, they might accidentally drop it and spill its valuable contents. The container wasn't really much to look at. It was so old that much of its original red and gold floral colors had faded. You could tell right where it had been gripped again and again. Not only Martha's fingers had gripped it there, but her mother's and her grandmother's had, too. Martha didn't know for sure, but she felt that perhaps even her great-grandmother had used this same container and its secret herb. All Ben knew for sure was that shortly after he'd married Martha, her mother had brought the container to Martha and told her to make the same loving use of its contents. And she did, faithfully. Ben never saw Martha cook a dish without taking the container off the shelf and sprinkling just a little of the secret herb over the ingredients. Even when she baked cakes, pies and cookies, he saw her add a light sprinkling just before she put the pans in the oven. Whatever was in that container, it sure worked, for Ben felt Martha was the best cook in the world. Somehow Martha had stretched those contents over 30 years of marriage to date. It never failed to affect mouth-watering results. Ben became increasingly tempted to look into that container just once but never brought himself to do so. Then one day Martha became ill. Ben took her to the hospital, where they kept her overnight. When he returned home, he found it extremely lonely in the house. Martha had never been gone overnight before. And when it neared supper time, he wondered what Martha had so loved to cook. He'd never bothered to learn much about preparing food. As he wandered into the kitchen to see what might be in the refrigerator, the container on the shelf immediately came into view. Finally he could no longer resist. He walked slowly across the room and ever so carefully took the container off the shelf, fearing that, horror of horrors, he'd spill the contents while sneaking a peek. He set the container on the counter and carefully pried off the lid. He was almost scared to look inside. Container came into full view. Ben's eyes opened wide. The container was empty. Little folded slip of paper at the bottom. He carefully picked it up by a corner, removed it and slowly unfolded it under the kitchen light. A brief note was scrawled inside, and Ben immediately recognized the handwriting as that of Martha's mother. Very simply it said, "Martha, to everything you make, add a dash of love." Ben swallowed hard, replaced the note. Now he knew why food is so tasty.